hear from Destiny. Destiny Mohammed first learned about the harp as a small child when she saw one in a film that Groucho Marx was in. It took her a few decades to finally be able to start her journey, but she and her music have been inspiring and moving folks for over 3 decades. Let me get through this, please. Thank you. Destiny, Destiny uses her musical talents to highlight the accomplishments and contributions of Black struggles and the leadership role of Black women in particular. She often shares the stage with FSP's own revolutionary poet, Nellie Wong.
Yep.
And speaks to her desire to collaborate with like-minded folks. We are honored that Destiny is here today to sing the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The song started as a poem by James Weldon Johnson and was first performed 125 years ago this year. The poem was later set to music by his brother, John Rosamond Johnson. Please stand for the anthem and join me in welcoming Destiny Mohammed.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Sing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou has brought us thus far on our way. Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, filled with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. To our native land.
All right. And thank you so much, Destiny. That sets our soul, all of our souls here on fire. We're going to have a good discussion today, a real good discussion today. So, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Black History Month to everyone online and here at New Valencia Hall, the organizing space of the Freedom Socialist Party. My name is Norma Gallegos. I'll be your chair for today's event. I am on the leadership team. Thank you, Destiny. And that name, right? Destiny, speak. Um, I'm on the leadership team of the Bay Area Freedom Socialist Party. I'll say FSP from here on out, and a part of the National Comrades of Color Caucus, which is composed of members of color in both FSP and our sister organization, Radical Women. Black History Month matters and deserves respect for the victories and battles that our African American sisters, brothers, siblings, and ancestors have engaged in. We have all benefited from their leadership. The radical history is not taught in classrooms and academic lecture halls to activate and fight back, especially in the fight against white supremacy and fascism. The rise of the far right and the threat of fascism has become our current reality. Project 2025 is the handbook to strengthen patriotic nationalism, indoctrinating everyone into Christianity, and having a white hetero nuclear family unit. Project 2025 will eliminate Medicaid, Medicare, and Head Start programs. Public education as we know it to be under attack will be further eliminated. Yet none of this is new, right? Black history is powerful in its lessons. It demands fervor and seriousness in the fight against ruling class tyranny and oppression. FSP's program is built on the premise that Black working class leadership in the United States is indispensable to class struggle, while at the same time, Black liberation cannot be one short of socialist revolution. So, what is the solution to stopping this terror? We need a united front. We need a united front that is led by the working class and needs to have the Black leadership of Black workers, especially Black women. It's in their DNA to resist. On February 2nd of this month, we saw how the historic Black neighborhood of Lincoln Heights in Ohio ran the white supremacists out of the area while they were rallying. The rise in fascism and the inspiring and courageous leadership role of Black activists and radicals is a fitting topic for Black History Month 2025. I'm honored to introduce our speaker, Christina Lee. Christina is a public health worker. She's Blackanese, that's Black and Chinese, and a public health worker for the city and county of San Francisco. She is a member of SEIU 1021 and a member of her union's 1021 Labor for Palestine. Christina is also a leader in the Reproductive Justice San Francisco Bay Area Coalition. And so, Christina, hi. Let's get into this topic and discussion because I want to ask you some questions. There's 4. What is behind the threat of fascism and what are the roots of fascism?
Okay, so I borrowed this from a piece that I found, and I can get you the citation afterwards because I'm reading off of paper and not something hyperlinked. But fascism is capitalism in its most desperate, violent form. Fascism is simply organized counter-revolution. It is the last resort of capitalists. In periods of economic crisis where capitalists are concerned for their money and their power, it seeks to ensure that those that they are exploiting cannot fight back, organize, or stop them from accumulating more capital and power. And so for Black people, both in the United States and globally, fascism takes on more specific forms. So in the United States, beyond our oppression being literally baked into the Constitution and other foundations of the country, fascism manifests as, you know, slavery, both the chattel version that was made illegal by the 13th Amendment, which nevertheless left a loophole allowing it for punishment for a crime, lynching, bombing, and political oppression as it manifests, via groups like the Ku Klux Klan and other right-wing groups, or in opposition to Black political organizing from this, anti-slavery or, abolition work to the civil rights movement, to the Black Panthers and Black Lives Matter. So Black political or Black organizing to protect our rights and our lives is viewed as an existential threat to the American empire. And to the point where our revolutionary Black leaders are harassed or, all the way up to assassination by the government. And globally, Black liberation is interpreted by global powers as a threat to established hegemonic powers. So that goes from colonial powers militarily and economically attacking Haiti from its inception and its establishment as the first and only country to be established by a slave revolt, to the Italian fascist occupation and annexation of Ethiopia in the 1930s. Black people's desire for independence and autonomy is once again a threat. And then in the United States, obviously I already mentioned opposition to slavery, but, even Black American resistance to the Vietnam War, it wasn't only resistance to the concept of war or imperialism in Vietnam. Many civil rights leaders during that time understood that bowing to the military machine would not elevate Black people's standing in the United States. That was a hope that a lot of Black folks had in enlisting in the military in World War II. And what happened with those folks is that they joined the military, they were in other countries fighting shoulder to shoulder with other people and were being respected and treated like humans. And then they come home, shoulders back, head high, and were attacked. But to tie it back to Vietnam, many of the civil rights leaders were also recognizing and naming that the Vietnam War was something that was sucking away resources that should have been being used to improve the life of Black Americans and all Americans. And they also understood that globally, it makes no sense for Black folks to be aligning themselves with the empire. So Muhammad Ali, boxer and member of the Nation of Islam, said, "I ain't got no quarrel with the Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me the N-word. I don't use the word." And then Martin Luther King noted, "The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the fields of Vietnam. Billions are liberally expended for this ill-concerted war. The security we profess to seek in foreign adventures, we will lose in our decaying cities. The bombs in Vietnam explode at home. They destroy the hopes and possibilities for a decent America." And so, naming that is so important because, the powers that be like to make us act. It is helpful to them if we act as if these things are not all linked. And so, and what we've got going on, what is the current, situation in regards to fascism? Despite the reality that the capitalist class has accumulated unimaginable amounts of money and infrastructure and is clawing its way deeper into governments and institutions to both, maintain what they have and, keep us from taking it from them. You know, I think that when we learn about fascism in school, they like to be like, okay, Nazis, Stalin, and that's it. That's what fascism looks like. And so we have to recognize that it's, the only reason why we're not saying like, oh my God, fascism, is because, we're used to it looking the way that it looks when it's applied to white people. And yet when you look at the way in which it manifests against people of color, especially and specifically Black people globally, you just realize that there's like a whole lot more fascism in the world. And then last snarky remark is like, this is why I get cranky about stuff like The Handmaid's Tale, where it's like, oh, well, what if oppression that already happens to like people of color and has been happening and is happening to people of color, but if it happened to white ladies? And so it's like, it is so just like, I was going to say important, but like that word is not strong enough. It is essential that we are really understanding attacks on all other groups of people as also attacks on ourselves. None of us are immune to the horrors that are afoot. And if we're ignoring horrors that are happening to, any group that we might not be part of, we are ignoring those horrors sneaking up on us to jump us in a dark alley.
Yes. So tell me more about what is the role of Black fighters um, having in fighting white supremacist terror, because a lot of what you're saying is just there's a history. So please.
Okay, so American Black resistance has always been a model for the world, just as these American systems have always been a model for oppression. But we are a model of how to fight for liberty. So just as oppressors from the Nazis to the Zionist state of Israel have taken lessons from American capitalism's division of the masses and racialized capitalist infrastructure, so too have those looking for freedom found inspiration in, from the revolts against slavery, Jim Crow, and police brutality. So, people, yearning for freedom around the world have looked at, resistance to slavery, the way in which Black folks in the US were exposing lynching, which is, honestly the preeminent example of white supremacist terror, which persists. We don't call it lynching today. We don't tend to use that word, but that's what it is when Black folks are getting gunned down in the street. Um, organizing against and defying Jim Crow. Like there's this picture that I love of this Black man whose name I have not committed to memory, just like giving the camera the stank eye as he is drinking from a whites only fountain. It's like, I love that. And then the way that we organize for our civil rights. People get really excited to talk about Gandhi. It's like, where do you think Gandhi learned it from? And so we were defying unjust laws, from the water fountain bans that I mentioned to the Montgomery bus boycotts, because we're going to hit them in their wallets. We're not going to, it's like, we know that they are dependent on us for everything that we do. And so we're going to hit them where it hurts. Like the Montgomery bus boycott lasted for over a year. And so, the community was not playing when it came to like hurting this bus company that was discriminating against them. And so, and then we also organize organizations to defend Black people, from militias to the Black Panthers. We build infrastructure to give Black people the services that white supremacy denies us. So beyond the self-defense aspect of the Black Panthers, also the community programs, getting food to youth, testing for sickle cell anemia, making sure that, there were ambulances and healthcare that Black people could go to because white hospitals weren't doing that. And then also organizing to expose police and extrajudicial murder, and it's like, but like, I still think that we should just call it lynching, because it's something that's so visceral. Like, you hear Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday, and like it sends chills down your spine. But it's like, what happened to Trayvon Martin? What happened to just like all of the, named and unnamed Black folks? Yeah, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, all of these people. It's like they were lynched. And just say it, just say they were lynched. And then, and so also in all of these different areas, Black people also have been able to make clear the connections between our Blackness and our other marginalized identities. From disabled leaders like Harriet Tubman, who not only led enslaved folks to freedom, but was also a spy, scout, nurse, and cook during the Civil War, to Johnny Lacey, who helped found the Berkeley Center for Independent Living, and Brad Lomax, who was a disabled Black Panther who used a wheelchair and participated in the legendary 504 sit-in at the San Francisco Federal Building, and encouraged the Black Panthers to provide meals and other supplies to the protesters. And so the 504 sit-ins achieved their objective on April 28th, 1977, when the Secretary of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare signed the regulations to employ the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act in 1973. This was making sure that folks with disabilities had funds for their education, because previously it was not a given that disabled folks could get education. So like, we always been all up in it.
It's been an inspiration to other movements. The Chicano movement was inspired by the civil rights movement. The LGBTQ movement was inspired by um, the civil rights movement. But you mentioned workers. Talk to me. Can you explain more about why labor unions and other workers need to be involved in this fight against fascism?
Okay, so Norma over here is an automotive worker, and so you need to forgive this pun. It's just I had to do it. Labor is a vehicle that can unite and defend the working class. So not only is it able to unite workers from singular or multiple industries, it also brings together people of different genders, sexualities, races, and experiences together for the singular goal of improving their collective conditions. And then unions are also one of the only working class entities with the organizing prowess, funds, and personnel to make a difference in social issues that affect the working class. And when workers get together to push their unions to act, we can do incredible things. So, 10 days ago in Lincoln Heights, which also I found out that was the first Black-led city in the United States. Neo-Nazis were putting up flags with swastikas over the interstate, and community members got together to create a rolling protest of, vehicles that were countering that fascist display. Here in San Francisco, this was last year. I can't believe it was last year already. The No to APEC coalition, we were shutting down that, convention of capitalism that was bringing together capitalists from all over the world to figure out how to screw the working class more effectively. And we participated in direct action against these capitalists. Bob and I were literally like chained together to keep them from getting in. It was awesome. It was. And like in the realm of reproductive rights, my homegirl over here, we're part of Reproductive Justice San Francisco, which is the local chapter of the National Mobilization for Reproductive Justice. And we have done, so much, but, some of my favorite things have been, well, I have to add to this. First of all, shutting down Market Street when Roe v. Wade was overturned, like that was amazing. And then we also did like a letter writing campaign to the Supreme Court justices. We had a amazing campaign, letter writing campaign to the head of the AFL-CIO, demanding that they hold an emergency conference for reproductive rights. Because people like to act like, women are a separate group, labor is a separate group, disability is a separate group. And it's like, are workers not also women? Are workers not also Black? Are workers not also disabled? We are all of these things, and our unions need to be something that is fighting for all of those parts of us, not just the part that is taking place in the office. And then the other thing is, defense of Palestine. So I'm in SEIU 10-1, and while the union as a whole has been really reticent to jump in on, that defense, SEIU 10-1 for Palestine has been pushing them, because like this is something that I have learned from Nancy and Amy, that like, if you want your unions to do things, you got to be pushy. You have to make them do the right thing. And so we were able to pass pass resolutions. We are looking into BDS, but boycott, divestment, and sanctions, because so many different unions as pensions, are things that are also invested in these Zionist machinations. And so why should they be? And so, there are so many ways that labor can be so incredibly effective in the issues that affect our lives and the lives of other working people around the world, but we got to make them do it.
Talk a little bit more about SEIU's. There was a couple years ago where SF Black workers were in the news about the discrimination that they were experiencing in the city, and why that's important for us to acknowledge that in the Bay Area.
Okay, so as I think this was like my initial premise, like I think this was like the thesis statement of my notes, that racism is literally baked into everything. And so the Erase Racism Coalition, which is what I believe you're referring to, was a group of mostly Black women that I believe are San Francisco Department of Public Health workers. And so, they were facing discrimination on the job. And then they were also highlighting the disparity in hiring. And so Black folks weren't getting hired, Black folks weren't getting promoted. And the really infuriating thing about that is that something I know now, I didn't know this, I wasn't working in DPH when I first, met the Erase Racism folks, but, it is so important to have your the people that are working on health in the community be people from those communities, because when you are treating whiteness as the default in the body, when you are treating male as if it is default in the body, there's so much stuff that happens more to women, happens more to people of color, things that are going to come up more if you are a queer person. And there's so many other intersections where if you're not paying attention to those things, you're going to miss things that are affecting a certain community. And so when I was talking about the Black Panthers earlier and how they were creating the health care for the Black community in San Francisco, they were specifically doing testing for sickle cell anemia, which is a blood condition that primarily affects people from Black communities. I mean, it does exist in other communities, but it wasn't being addressed by the health systems that were treating, you know, Black folks. And so if you're acting as if that is not a thing, it's like that you've got like a major killer that's just like, you know, decimating people and you're doing nothing. And so this is why it is so important to make sure that we are represented everywhere. You know, I don't remember where I'm stealing this from, but like nothing about us without us.
You were also a part of FSP's mass work that we do in the Freedom Socialist Party, Slash. Can you say a little bit more about that, but in relation to the fight against fascism? I believe it came out of the Black Lives Matter.
Yes. So slash, so it is an acronym which stood for the San Francisco League Against Systemic Harm. And so, but it was originally called slash SFP, the SFPD stash, Guns and Cash, because what we were doing is that we were going down to meetings and saying what we need to do is slash the SFPD budget and take away their military hardware. Because when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so what that looks like, or what that looked like, was police being dispatched to mental health emergencies or drug emergencies, and you know, people getting shot or injured because they were having a mental health crisis. And you know, all of the you know, behavioral health people were telling them, okay, well, maybe if you're not showing up with guns and like treating them like a criminal, you can help them better. Maybe if you're not coming at them looking like, you know, freaking Iron Man, they will see you as somebody that is actually there to help them. And so it would not be difficult to take the massive amount of money, and like, what's really annoying is that they did end up cutting their budget, and then they ended up like sneaking it back to the police when they thought people weren't looking anymore. But like, if you are spending, you know, honestly, you would get more bang for your buck if you were reallocating that money to people that are already mental health professionals, people from the community that like, oh, I know this person that is having a mental health crisis on the street. They know that I am not here to haul them off somewhere, and I can help them. And like, isn't that a whole lot nicer than like some hulked out person with a gun or a taser that is traumatizing more people in the community?
We do have a little bit more time. There's two more questions, and then we can get into discussion. But FSP also believes in reparations. Can you say a little bit about, you know, how what is, you know, our position on reparations, but in relation to, you know, what it is that we're trying to say about that?
Okay, well, first off, there's like really no amount of money, or you know, that can make up for centuries of murder, oppression, redlining, you know, mistreatment of babies, women, children, men, folks of all genders. Like there's really, like, I can't even you know, like how you can't really fathom like how much $1 billion is? Like you really can't fathom like the amount of money that it would take to like actually make up for those things. And then like the problem with, you know, reparations as popularly explained to people as like, you know, a check that's going to get handed out to people because they're black, you know, it's like under capitalism, like in the world, like if all the black people in this room got a check for like, say, $20,000, you know, or even like $50,000, like that is not going to be enough to like establish our safety and well-being under capitalism in this world, because it's also, so it's like one trying to be like a band-aid that's like, hey, you got your money, now shut up. It is not saying, okay, we are acknowledging the depth of what has happened to your community and the way in which we have set all of you up to fail and still have you hobbled so that you can't succeed in this world. And we're not going to fix any of those things. We're not going to like change any of the things, or maybe we'll change a couple of the things that we're doing, but we're not doing it. We're not going to get rid of those other things. But like, you know, take your $50,000 and just like say thank you, you know, and like on it. And it also lets, you know, kind of everything just kind of get a pass, you know, because it's, I mean, there are like multiple layers to like the things that are included in reparations. And often an apology will be part of that. Although the really, and like, please stop me if I'm rambling too much, but like the thing that gets so infuriating about why governments will refuse to do apologies, and like I first learned about this when I was meeting Aboriginal folks while visiting Australia, is that like the reason why the Australian government did not want to make an apology for what they did to the Aboriginal people was because they were afraid that that was going to put them on the hook, legally speaking, to like lawsuits from the Aboriginal community. You know, so they're like, okay, well, we're going to express regrets. We're going to give money to these various cultural centers and this, that, and the other thing. But like, that's, you know, it's like there still needs to be more that is done. And that's like, and seeing that, it's still more than happens here. Yeah. It is still more than happens here. Like, particularly now when these people are trying to stop us from saying, they're trying to act like it is hate speech to say true facts about what happened to us and is continuing to happen to us in this country. And so it's like, you know, when you are denying facts and true history, like how are you going to go forward in the world when you are building things on a foundation that is janky?
Yeah, Christina had been in our branch. Well, San Francisco was trying to do a reparations proposal, and Christina was a part of the research and going to these meetings, and that's where her experience is coming from. You know, because we collectively reparations are important, but when it comes to just, yeah, it's never gonna be enough. So just going back to, you know, just tying this all in, what is needed to stop the fascist threat facing working folks throughout the world, and, you know, bringing it in Bay Area, statewide, national.
Okay, so the Freedom Socialist Party has this book. It's called Revolutionary Integration, and it's kind of like the basis of our analysis on all of the, you know, basically everything that surrounds, you know, anti-Black racism in the United States and globally. And but like the other thing that I really love about it is it's also something that highlights why Black people in the United States are leaders for liberation, not only for themselves but for the entire working class, both nationally and globally. And like this is kind of like ties into what I was talking about earlier about how, our freedom struggles here inform freedom struggles abroad. And but the something that I'm kind of going to paraphrase here, Black issues are never just Black issues. And so the things that we fight for ourselves are things that will liberate the entire working class. And then basically the reason why capitalists around the world, probably galactically, come down so hard on Black people from the United States to Haiti to Africa is that they understand that a world in which Black people are free, like truly free, is a world in which the working class is free and capitalism is defeated. So, and like, how do we get that? Because this is not something that Black people can do on our own. Like, we've been trying, and like, and then we keep getting thwarted. And so we need a bigger gang. We need to be, the working class needs to unite. And so the way that we do that is united fronts. And so united fronts are working class led or working class, I don't need to say led, but like also led organizations that are uniting around a specific issue. And so what that means is that like, you can be in Radical Women, and you can be in the Freedom Socialist Party, and you can be from, Extinction Rebellion, and I can be from the Black Student Union, and we can agree that, say, the Navy's poisoning of people in the Bayview, where in Hunters Point, where I work, is an issue. And then even though we might disagree on like, other things in, going on in the world, we all agree on, this is a problem and we need to fight it, and we're going to do this together. And so these are organizations that are so powerful and that we need, where we have all of our different groups getting together to fight. And so we could use some united fronts demanding health care, united fronts demanding equity in healthcare treatment. um, and we can have a united front for whatever we want, as long as we agree on like some central tenets that we're all fighting for. And then also that we're not letting capitalists like, elbow their way in to take up a lot of space, because, if they could fix the problem, they would have done it. They don't want to. And then the other thing that we really need, is a labor party. So this is, I'm pretty sure we said this earlier, but last summer I went to Chicago with folks from the Freedom Socialist Party and Radical Women, and with folks from SEIU 10 to 1 to protest the Democratic National Convention. And like, this was something that was really important to me as a Black socialist feminist, because something that I have hated from the time that I was like maybe 12 or 13 is the Democratic Party's chokehold on the Black community. It infuriates me that, one, like so many in the Black community like to act as if the Democrats are our only champions in, national politics, like Fannie Lou Hamer wasn't a thing, or like we don't have like so many other like really amazing Black radical leaders that have like tried to get the Democrats to do the right thing, and then they do not want to. And like, they barely want to look as if they are like actually on our side. They just want to do the performative thing and do like their Wakanda Forever, throwing on some kente cloths and kneeling for 5 seconds, Nancy Pelosi. I'm still mad. No, no, this was a thing. This was an actual thing that they did. And I know that the goal of like me seeing these people in kente cloth kneeling, like they were trying to make me feel like they understood, the struggles of my people. And I'm like, how dare you? And it's like, given all the chances that they have had to actually do something and they don't. And this is, and like that's how I feel as a Black lady, but like also as a worker, also as an Asian person, also as like someone that lives in a city. And so if we had a political party, it's like, because like I recognize that we can't just like get rid of our current democratic structures in the US, but at minimum, if we had a party that was like actually fighting for the majority of people and not just playing like that was what they were doing and saying they were representing us, when it's like they don't represent me. And then this is an area where people in unions, people in different kinds of affinity groups, and just working class people in general can come together and have a voice within these systems that, don't want us. And I'm not like, I was a political science major. I am not like so delulu to think that they are going to just like let us have a Labor Party. They really specifically make it hard for non-Republican or Democrat parties to establish themselves and be allowed to be on the ballot. Like in the Freedom Socialist Party, like electorally, in California, we're members of the Peace and Freedom Party because it's a, non-capitalist party that is, able to run candidates, which at least gives us the opportunity to get the word out about what we believe and think, which is so important to do because capitalist media and other politicians, they just want to bring up the most boogeyman version of what we are asking for, because if they actually said what they stood for, they would, everybody else would just go like, why are you trying to stop them though? What's so wrong about everybody having health care? What's so wrong about people having the full spectrum of reproductive rights? And then, then they have to explain like, oh, well, I think reproductive rights are bad because women aren't people. It's like, you got to make them say it. Um, and so like that's and so like it, but basically it like allows all of those groups to actually have a fighting chance in the arena of ideas and power.
Ooh. Christina, you inspire and I appreciate your leadership as a comrade in FSP. And I just think Black women in this struggle, I raised on Audre Lorde, raised on just the Black women teachers, that I had in my high school here in San Francisco. Tell me more about the importance of the leadership of working class Black women in this fight, including yourself, and who inspires you?
Okay, so there are so many people that inspire me. Like, you know, absolutely people of all races, because like I have to give like a lot of credit to people in the Comrades of Color Caucus of the Freedom Socialist Party for helping train me and challenging me to kind of explore like what it means to be a Black freedom fighter in 2025. And honestly, like this is one of the things I love the most about the Comrades of Color Caucus, which is a leadership body within the Freedom Socialist Party and Radical Women, because the leader of our party, Clara Frazier, was understood that you know people of color in the Freedom Socialist Party and Radical Women were providing so much leadership and, and wanted to make sure that that was something that was codified and recognized so that like our insight and our voices were being included and woven into our programs and the way that we do things. And what I love about the Comrades of Color Caucus is that we teach each other, we challenge each other, and then we push each other to be able to articulate the things that we're thinking. Because sometimes, you're just kind of like thinking about something a little bit, and then you say it, and then it comes out wrong, and then they look at you sideways and they're like, there have been so many times when Nellie's just kind of look at me and she's like, Christina, what do you mean? And then I have to be like, okay, well, Christina, what do you mean? Because sometimes, the way that you say something the first time does not land with other people. But like that doesn't mean that they're against you. It doesn't mean that they're not listening to you. It just means that you have to say it in a way that they're going to understand. And like we all help each other say things so that other people, like our other, comrades, other groups that we work with, but also like the people, out on the streets can understand what we're putting down and then like join us with it.
All right, let's give a round of applause to Christina. We'll hear closing remarks from Christina again, and then we'll get into discussion. But first, Nancy, for a special announcement.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Wow. Thank you, Destiny. Wow. Anyway, I'm here to build on the great excitement and inspiration that we've gotten. The Freedom Socialist Party has been in existence for over half a century. In San Francisco for not quite that long, but quite a few years. And we have a storefront here in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And as everybody knows, San Francisco is a very expensive town. We do this, are able to forward these things through the generosity of our members, of community, the movement. And in order to keep the lights on, I'm going to ask that I'm going to pass a basket around. If you can give what you can afford, anything is welcome and very much appreciated. It's the little amounts that add up to the bigger amounts. So, as Christina said, is that fascism is on the rise and we are needed more than ever. The resources to put on a demonstration, to make copies of resolutions to pass out at our union meetings, to have computers to be able to do social media, all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to keep it at that. And again, thank you again. We'll announce our total at the end. Folks on Zoom, if you could also, there should be a link there's a link in the Zoom and you can go right there and go ahead and make a contribution. So thank you very much. Yeah, if you don't happen to have cash, there's little sheets you can write on. You can pay later. There's lots of different options. Yeah, right.
We have Zelle, we have Square. I can use my phone. You like that, everyone?
We are part of the future.
We are in the future. I will pay at the table. If someone will take my donation, that would be, thank you. All right, and then we can announce the amount we received. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, we're working class and we got no funding from the federal government or nonprofits.
We wouldn't take it anyway.
Yeah, we would not.
Nonprofit money comes with strings. They wouldn't let us do political stuff.
Nah. All right. And then do we have a Zoom link in the chat? Oh, nice. Hey.
It's the Freedom Socialist page.
Yep, just go to the page, hit the donate button.
link in our bio.
Go to the link in the bio, hit like and subscribe.
Yes. Like, share, and subscribe.
All right. All right. Okay, we have a nice chunk of time, 40 minutes to talk. We want to hear what folks have been mulling over, thinking about. Let's be bold, let's be honest, and thank you, Susan Massey, our comrade in Arizona. Right? Wrong? Oh, okay.
All I remember is that she came to visit us.
Yeah.
And she's awesome.
Yes. All right. So I'll just open it up for discussion. Any immediate thoughts or things that you wanted to add that came up, as we were having this Q&A. You have your hand up, Moises? Okay.
Wow. Thank you to Destiny again for the beautiful music, and then also Christina, really knockout job. Wow, fabulous. Um, I thought it was really interesting that you used as a this is my word, I'm 66, so that as a baseline on the issue of war, you mentioned the Vietnam War, in U.S. Vietnam War. And I have cousins that are both deceased as well as still alive and disabled, usually from serving in that of several wars, U.S. wars. I also wanted to echo, and I think that's important because, as you said in your talk, Black revolutionaries, Black female leaders that tie all these issues together were, of course, among the first to be targeted for bringing all those issues together that will really initiate the tremendous changes that have happened at least 2 times in the United States. And so it will again. Black workers are going to lead the revolution, and it will not be necessarily on TikTok. So that besides, I also want to just echo as my last point here that what Norma said, and that is the impact of the Black movements. For example, in the 1960s and 70s Black civil rights movement, that Chicanos and American Indians, women's lib. I remember it used to be called women's lib for a while. That all, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that Black workers will continue to be a force to bring us together. And right now, it's about fighting the billionaires that are in control of the Oval Office openly. So thank you very much. I look forward to continue to organize and fight alongside the FSB and many others against capitalism, because it needs to go. It's so outmoded. It's got to go. Thank you.
We should have another mic, but that's fine. Who else would like to comment, question? Do you want to respond to Moises?
Okay, so I want to thank you for your comments. Although I do not agree with you that TikTok, about TikTok, because no, seriously, like, this is something I think about a lot because I have a TikTok problem. But TikTok is part of the revolution, because even though it is a space that is owned by a corporation, it is also part of the revolution because it is a place where, working class people, but specifically Black people, are talking to each other, sharing our thoughts and analysis, and like, also debating with one another. And like this is also something that is happening in a space where other people, people that don't have regular proximity to Black folks, which, there's a lot because of segregation, both in physical and digital spaces. And so for, Black people to be able to talk to each other about the things that they see, the work that they're doing, the things that happen with them, and then have other people be able to witness that, that is something that's really, really powerful. Because when you have, a Black trans person talking about their experiences on TikTok, you can't just, act as if that is a perspective that doesn't exist, or that, you've never heard before. You can't unhear that. You can't unlearn that. And so, like, that is something that is helping expand the consciousness of other people, like something that our, leaders in the Bay Area branch always say, that like the millennial in me doesn't always love, but even though I know that it's true, is that we need to go out and talk to people. And like, I don't always want to talk to people. Like sometimes, no, I'm just being real here. Sometimes I just want to like go home and do cozy girl stuff at home. But, but then when I go out and I'm talking to people, having a really good conversation with another activist at a rally, or like arguing with somebody at a lit table, like that is ways in which I am helping push their understanding of the world, and they're helping push mine. And so that's something important that is possible on TikTok, and that it also is something that gives people access to people that are not in the same physical proximity. So like there was this, and I really did not mean to get on this whole TikTok tangent, but you did this. I was provoked, but um, during the time when the government was going to ban TikTok, people started moving over to this Chinese app called Red Note. And what was really cool about that was that we were getting to have conversations with people in China and learn about their lives, because America loves to make China the boogeyman. And so, and then the best part also is like, they're like, girl, do you really live like that? And then we get to ask the same thing, and then learn about what are the lies that my government is telling me about these other people, and then also what are the lies that they're learning about us.
I'll let folks collect their thoughts, or go ahead, Nancy.
Great. A couple things. One thing that really bugs me, that's actually not an appropriate word, which I think, because it's more important than that, is that there are some people running around saying, Trump's a fascist, we have fascism. And I think, I'm interested in knowing, what do you think about that? I don't personally believe that, or politically believe that we are under fascism today, but I think that, people are understanding that it's certainly a threat, which is why we're doing this forum. The other point I wanted to make is, if you could, a point and also a question is, why a revolutionary party now? Why is it so important today, right? I mean, in my mind, since I'm a revolutionary in a revolutionary party, it's all the time. But given the crisis of global capitalism, why is a revolutionary party necessary, right? It's not like we can do something else and then maybe get to revolutionary party, but again, trying to maybe hone in a little bit more on kind of the urgency of the times, as well as kind of the qualitative formations that we need to have in order to defeat fascism.
I do have another question. Because yeah, as Christina was saying, that TikTok, for myself as a millennial, but what we were finding, what happened with I'm on Black TikTok, I'm on Native TikTok, and it's specific because Black content creators were defending in the community. You could talk more about it, but they were defending immigrants, Black immigrants. Can you say a little bit more about what's the connection there and why there was maybe, like, we don't need to defend immigrants. But anyways, I think this is something that in FSP we have to recognize that in this time period, we're all under attack, right? So maybe if you could say a little bit more about that, but first to Nancy's question and my question, and then as everyone, please, would love to hear from you.
Just jotting down notes. Okay, so first question, are we under fascism? No, because if we were under fascism, I would not be here with a microphone. I would have been tackled. This microphone would be broken. I'm sorry about your hardware. And like, y'all would have gotten like hauled off for listening to a subversive woman talking to you. And so it's important, and like, thank you so much for asking that, Nancy. It's so important to be not hyperbolic about being under fascism, because if you were doing like that Chicken Little shit where you're like, the sky is falling, we're under fascism, people stop listening to you. And so while it is important to warn, and like, as marginalized people, as Black people, as queer people, as women, like, we are the first people, we are literally the canaries in the coal mine. We're the first ones that are gonna suffocate and die and keel over, as the oligarchs that run this country are doing what they do. And so like, it's important to warn about the things that are, the creeping fascism, the horrors, as I have euphemistically been referring to them to. But if you are going to the extreme and being like, no, we're under fascism now, it's like people are not going to believe you when like when more things start happening. And so so that's that part. And then why are revolutionary parties important? It kind of goes back to what I was saying about unions and what unions are able to do. It's that and then it also ties into a quote that like you would think that I would commit to memory the person who said it, because I use this all the time. But there is a quote about how you need to have, I think it might have been Lenin, the steam box, where basically the revolutionary fervor of the masses is like steam. And in order for it to do something, it needs to be contained so that the steam can do what it do, and like, turn the wheels or flappy things, or however steam things work, because otherwise it's just going to go poof out into the fog. And so like, something that a revolutionary party does is it gives the steam like the structure to be able to like actually get stuff done. And then the other really great thing about a revolutionary party is the institutional knowledge. So like, I feel like I've been quoting Nancy a lot today, but that's because I've known her for a really long time. And then something that she always says is that, like, I'm not going to get mad if you're making a mistake, but what I want is for us to make new mistakes. And I think she might have been quoting Clara Fraser on that. But okay. Yeah. And like, the great thing about having all of these generations of fighters is that we don't have to be constantly reinventing the ways that we fight. like we have been fighting for decades, generations, millennia. And so, like, why do people always feel like they have to figure out how to fight when people like been fighting? Like, look at what they were doing, see what worked, and then like if you need to update it to your generation, do it. But like, you don't have to figure out new ways to do it all the time. And then the other part of a revolutionary party is like training and discipline. Like revolutionaries are not like just do not like just spring out like out of somebody's head like Athena popping out of Zeus's head. Like revolutionaries are taught and trained. And so and the best part about that is that it means that when you're like out on the streets, like, you're not going to get thrown when, the police are doing something funky. You're not going to get tricked when a fascist is trying to interview you for their creepy right wing YouTube and making you. No, literally, this happened to me where, like, when some people like to, shove microphones in my face, like I'm doing to myself right now, because they want to hear me talk. But then sometimes you get people that are trying to get you to talk so that they can then make fun of what you're saying or trying to, twist what you're saying. And, like having learned what to listen for and having learned to listen to my gut, I was like, okay, I'm a little sketched out by this. And so, like, I'm going to put this in a way that you cannot deliberately misunderstand, which is, another superpower that Black women have because the world really be determined to misunderstand us. Oh, and then, sorry, the last, question that Norma had about defending immigrants. So, something that Black folks inherently understand is that you cannot leave groups of people to be targeted by the powers that be. It's like that quote by Pastor Niemöller that we have up in the bathroom about, first they came for the trade unionists and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist, and so on and so forth. We know that like it's usually us that are being come for. And so that's why we don't just stand to the side when the powers that be are coming after another group. It's not just because we know that those groups will inevitably coming down on us, but like we also know that like we want people standing with us when we are being attacked, and we need to be standing with other people when they are being attacked. But then also at the same time, something it was, part of one of my drafts, and I'm bringing this back to TikTok, conversations that were being had after the last election. A lot of Black people are like, really, fight hard for the Democratic Party. And, Black women are the biggest Democratic Party voters. And so what they were saying was, okay, well, we did our part. We voted for Hillary. We did our part. We voted for Kamala, you know, and then, and then all this happened because, you couldn't even rally up the rest of your people to vote for these people that we had critiques of, very strong critiques of, because because another thing that I really hate is how people like to act as if all Black people are automatically for all Black people. And while there is a part of me that is team, I'm rooting for everybody Black, I am also, and also this one got me a patch that says that, and I love it. But also, like, there are people that I don't like, I will not ride for because I think that what they are doing is some coonery, or that I think that what they are doing is just like the wrong way to go about it. And like, because I, at least have enough respect for them, like, I will tell you to your face that I don't think that your way of doing it is the right way to do it. And so, all that to say that, like, just because people were saying, like, you know, well, stop counting on Black women, stop looking to us to lead your movements, to defend you, to do this, that, and the other thing, I know that we can't be leaving each other behind when attacks are being afoot. But, you know, something that I want to just kind of encourage people, and I'm going to like look straight into the camera as I say this, we are the leaders that we have been looking for. And so we all need to step up when, you know, when things are going down. Like, don't just look to the Black woman in your community, also look to yourself and say, what needs to be done? What can I do that needs to be done? And if I don't know, who can I ask and how can I learn? There is so much amazing history to learn from and to be inspired by. And like, this is also why they don't want to teach us about Black history. This is why they don't want you to know about the 504 sit-in. They don't want you to know that, like, people of all races and genders and groups were coming together to fight and win. And so this is also why you should read the books that they tell you that they don't want you to read. That's right. It's the reason why they don't want you to read them is because there's some good stuff in there.
I'm going to call on Destiny and Chriswell. Share your thoughts, please.
First of all, thank you all so much for having us here. This is really inspiring and uplifting and encouraging in times where the film that there was a film that came out that says that the danger is real, but the fear isn't. It was a film with Will Smith and his son, and he's telling his son the danger is real, but the fear isn't. I am so proud of what I'm looking at this generation that is generations younger than me, but is inspired by those of us who have come before you. And I'm going to continue to invite you to come to us. We have seen this. There are those of us who have got 6+ decades on the planet. We have seen this before. It is more accelerated than it has ever been. And there is a boldness in the level of ignorance that I don't recall from when I was a shorty growing up in Compton. I will encourage you to continue to invite you to sit down with us. Let's have some tea and have some conversations that have some activations within them. For me right now, what I see are several movies and books that are happening at the same time. I see Book of Eli, Mad Max, The Matrix. I see those happening. I see Stephen King's Dead Zone and The Stand happening at the same time, and it's incredible for me to see these books and films happening simultaneously. And again, recognizing that the danger is there, but not unwilling to do the Chicken Little. The sky is falling. We see what's happening. What are we willing to do and implement? There are those of us who are in this room who remember maybe not the advent of television, but we remember when television used to go off, and we were shorties during that time. And for me, social media is television on steroids, and it is the opportunity for us to continue to stay in communication and activations with one another. I invite you all of this generation who grew up. Oh, there's so many, again, there are so many films that are happening in my head. And I remember, I think it was it was one film where it was said that our children would never know a time when there weren't two suns, and it was Space Odyssey. And you all are the children who will never know a time when social media wasn't always an opportunity for us to activate and rally one another. And for those of us who are still a little bit shy and still attached to rotary phones, don't front and say that you're not. I know some of us are still afraid of a cell phone and leery of the download. I'm going to invite you to get with some of us who are still leery of those opportunities that will take us next level, because we are living the Jetsons as well. The fact that we are able to sit in front of a screen and know that folks can be all over the world, this is the Jetsons. I am inviting you to come to us and say, this is how you go to your app store. Download this app so I can talk to you. Let's do FaceTime. Let me show you how to set up an email. I know that seems a little far-fetched, but there's still some folks who haven't made that opportunity to learn how to do that. On the other end of that, I'm going to invite you, I know this is convenient, to get with us in person and let us show them the power of cursive writing and the power, right? And the power of actually writing a thank you card. There are still some things that still need to be activated before they become like Sanskrit, and only a few of us know how to decipher them. I'll leave you with this. I did, just speaking of cursive writing, I saw before our current incumbents have shut things down on being able to activate them, or at least touch on them through links on their website. There are libraries that are inviting folks they're asking for volunteers for folks to read cursive writing from the 16 and 1800s, because there are those of your generation that don't know what that is. And so I'm inviting you to come to us so we can pass on those legacies and legends and ideals, as well as we navigate this quote unquote new terrain that's old. Thank you.
Destiny, thank you. Amy. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God. We are
over 100 times.
it mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So much symbolism. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Please.
Thank you so much. I'm Amy. I work with the Freedom Socialist Party here in the Bay Area. I, I, there's so much, it can't all spill out, but you know, I'm going to start in maybe a weird spot, but I am so proud to be working class today. And what brings that, and there goes there goes another one. Why I say that is that, Christina, your talk and a lot of this discussion, it is about what we always say, standing shoulder to shoulder. We're all getting a bad deal if we're not in that ruling class. And some are definitely getting a worse deal than others. That's more than evident. But there's working people fight, and working people are the ones, to me, under, I don't know what human nature is, but human nature under capitalism to me is that working people, poor and working class people, look out who's next to them. And yes, we could have it ingrained in us that if they're not the same color, or if they're not the same gender, or if they're the wrong gender, yes. But by and large, we see, if you're next to me and we're getting the shaft, can I help you? Can you help me? Yeah. Okay. So that's what the working class is. And I love that you talked about, you know, and I think Norma even said, it's very evident that every one of our movements for any kind of liberation is standing on the shoulders of the first movement that happened on this soil, which was against slavery. And then it grew and it grew and it grew into the civil rights movement. I mean, those, we've got our ancestors, but politically, my ancestors are, we share the same ancestors if we're trying to fight for liberation, the political ancestry of, the freedom fighters against slavery and on through. And that just feels really important to me because maybe at your workplace, they say Black History Month is for everyone, but they don't mean it. And they don't know what they even are supposed to mean by saying that, but they know they're supposed to say that. But I just felt like something in your talk brought that home that, again, I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder for Black liberation. But I feel like what you were saying too is you need a bigger gang. I need a bigger gang. We all need a bigger gang. And if all of our gangs get together, that's the power that we have. And the last thing I just wanted to say too is, looking at, I put it down in a really handy soundbite, which I can't read now because it's my handwriting, which isn't cursive or printing. I don't know what it is. But, just this idea that we're not in fascism yet. Obviously, nobody's saying that to say, don't worry about it. Nancy's saying it to say, get the fuck ready. We have a chance. We have a chance. And we're doing we'll announce it at the end, but we're doing a Fascism, What It Is and How to Fight It study group right now, which has been so incredibly, we'll pass out the flyer, so incredibly informative about this opportunity that we have because they're scared of us. They're actually scared of us. They would like to keep it vote for who you vote for and win a little reform here. And hopefully they keep us silent or they keep us not looking out for each other. But when what they do to us gets too bad, they know that there's too many of us to keep in check. They're going to come for us, but there's too many of us and they're scared. And like my coworker here on a smaller level, fighting the city of San Francisco water department management and fighting all the way up to the mayor, we've got them where we want them. If we keep it moving, we just have to keep it moving. So I didn't mean to go on and on, but I love that why it's important to say we're not in fascism yet. We can all see the writing on the wall if we don't do anything, but we have them where we want them for every freedom struggle and to just topple this whole damn system over and to really make something where we can all thrive that we can't even barely imagine right now. So all of that came from your talk and from all these comments. Just to be shoulder to shoulder, to be working together, to make all the issues connected, that to me is what it means to be the very best of being working class. It's to be race conscious, it's to not be colorblind and all that kind of thing. So I feel, of course, the fear is not real, but sometimes we feel it, but I feel energized and I feel powerful and I want to just keep harnessing that. So thank you, Christina, for your talk.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, and and then also, just to tie in, the whole conversation about, cursive and skills and, intergenerational learning, this is how we make sure that, everybody, has the power they need to fight and like knows how to do different things. I mean, I still know how to use fax machines and microfilm.
I know how to use a VHS, Betamax. Okay. Luma has her hand up, and then I'll call on Nelly here at the hall. Go ahead. Let's turn up the volume.
Okay. I'm calling in from Tucson, Arizona, the little hot liberal spot in the state. And Christina, I wanted to ask you two questions. What do you see as the obstacles to building united fronts? Because I agree with you, and everybody is saying we've got to get together to fight this evil power. And how does the leadership of people of color, of Black people, Black women work within that context? Because I'm pretty sure that the white liberal response to Black leadership is not the answer. So if you could address that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so I have a bit of a nuanced take on what you were saying about the white response to Black leadership, because you kind of have a schizophrenic understanding of Black leadership, in that, like, you get white people who don't want to listen to people of color, particularly Black women, because we are pointing out things that you have connections to, or even maybe things that you're doing. And like that hurts your feelings. And then we are the big, mean Black ladies, or, other people of color. And so then it's just like, they're mean and I don't want to listen to them. Like that is real. And then on the other side of it, you also have people that kind of fetishize Black leadership. And so, like, they talk about, Black leaders in this like legendary unicorn kind of way. Like, we have superpowers. I mean, like, we do Black girl magic, etc. And also, like, I'm literally like just a lady. I'm just like a woman who grew up in San Francisco and like went to school here and learned from people. Like, I am not, didn't like drop out from, some magic egg in order to save the world, And so, like, I think that that's also something important to acknowledge, that like we are leaders, but we are also people. And so, like, we need to like treat each other like that. And and I think that that means that, we need to have grace for one another, and like not, act as if Black people are immune from criticism or from making mistakes. And then it also means that, like, don't treat us like we're automatically able to do everything, because like another way in which, white supremacy can express itself is in, kind of making Black women the mules of the movements. So where we are just like doing all the things, and it's like, we tired. We need a nap. We need like somewhere comfy to sit in the snack, like not necessarily like doing all the things all the time. And so when other, I mean, and while it is important not to speak over people or speak for people, it is also important to like do your reading, do your education, and like if we're not in the room, speak up. So like, just because Nancy is not a Black lady does not mean that she cannot speak up if she notices anti-Black racism in a room that she's not, that she's in and Black women aren't. If Amy is seeing Black workers at her job being mistreated, like, the people that it's happening to are probably going to speak up, but it's also going to mean a lot that, another comrade who is not also experiencing that oppression is noticing it and saying something about it.
Nelly, you had your
I think this is tremendous what's happening here today. There, even though there's a few of us, and I thought, oh, where are all the people? And the movements always start small, but what's really important that we are here and we're talking to each other. So first, I want to just follow on what Destiny was saying about come to us, teach us, and whether it's cursive or other things, because yeah, I've been on this earth a long time and learning Learning the computer took me a long, long time, and the iPhone, I still flub up and have to ask comrades and friends for help, those kinds of things. But that the technology is for will it benefit the working people? That's what's important. So I was really pleased to hear you talk about that, Destiny. And then I was thinking about the what this government is doing, and one of the things that has come up is that the whole issue of birthright. And then I thought, I said, what? Are they crazy? If they want to go towards fascism because of the failings of the capitalist system, but I mean, I can't even dig up all the things that the current administration is doing or trying to do, but it also means that we need to fight back. And one of the issues that I've been very, very concerned about is the whole issue of birthright, so that the children of undocumented immigrants would be shipped to the land of their parents or ancestors. And then, but I said, you know what? There was a Chinese man, Wong Kim Ark, in the late 1800s, born in the United States, born in San Francisco, made several trips to China, and on one of his returns, he was told that he could not come back to the US because he was the child of immigrants who could not become citizens of the US because of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Then I thought, there's something else that's happening too. So I read some more and I said, what about the Dred Scott decision? Black Americans, Dred Scott and his wife, I think her name was Harriet, and what they had to fight. And then I said, well, what does Trump and his administration and the neoconservatives trying to do? They're trying to rule the world, and they're trying to kill and blot out all of us. And so much of it is that, well, we're going to fight back, because if Wong Kim Ark could do it, and here he came, he was of the generation of the Chinese men in particular who had to wear braids because of the Qing dynasty and the conquering of people, certain people in China, etc. But here he was born in the US. So then the whole issue revolves around too, who is an American? And so much of that revolves around the politics of the US. And so, and one more thing is that without the writings and leaders of people like Audre Lorde and others, Toni Morrison, Frantz Fanon, there are so many more of the people of color and women and queer writers and all kinds of working class writers who really documented and wrote about, whether it's through stories or whether it's through manifestos or whether it's through any kind of history, that without that, I wouldn't be here today, because I was a secretary and told that I couldn't write because in a college class, I used too many cliches and such, all kinds of things like that. They're all connected, and to what led me to become a writer and a poet and a revolutionary activist, and then we will fight like hell. I'm going to fight until the day I die.
All right. Anyone else from this side of the room we've not heard? No pressure. A little bit of pressure.
Yes, pressure.
Lots of pressure. Okay, pressure. Who's going to talk?
I want to respond a little bit to what Nellie had to say. Um, not only, again, tying back to the training that you can get in the Revolutionary Party, you also get the encouragement, so you get people telling you that your voice is important, that the things that you have to say are what people in the world need to hear, and they, help you work on how to better express that. And then what you were also saying about poetry and art, you brought up a lot of really important writers, and it's like, and I agree with all of them. And then I also wanted to plug Afrofuturist writers. And so, like Octavia Butler is one of my favorites, and people are often talking about like, oh man, she was a prophet. The parable of the sower is literally what's happening right now. And the thing about that is that dystopian fiction is never just about like the future. It is a commentary on what is happening right now. It is just not happening to the main groups that people are looking at. And it goes back to what I was saying about like why Black folks are fighting for everybody else. It's like they are fighting for everybody else because they know that like you let something happen to one group, it is going to happen to everybody else. And it shows you why you can't just sit by and let these things keep happening. It's like you got to stop it in its tracks. Um, yeah. So when we had set up our plans for this event, we had a fifth question where Nancy was asking about, or like in part was asking about like the joy of being a Black revolutionary. And like, I was a little cranky. And I was like, do you really want me to answer this honestly? Because like, I'm not necessarily feeling great right now because the horrors, and like, particularly, no, seriously, because this is not the first Trump administration. And yet, like, I keep seeing people talking like we had not already experienced a previous Trump administration. It's like, this shit ain't new, people. Like, why are we acting like we don't know what things are going on? Like, why are we talking like we're starting from scratch? And it, and something that I also, have volunteered on crisis hotlines for over 2 decades. And something that I tell people a lot is that it is okay to feel your feelings, and so, and like, I, got on the phone with Nancy and I was just like, I just need to be cranky about this for a little bit. And like, this is what I was, kind of alluding to with, Black women on TikTok being like, don't try to tag me in for your struggle, because like when that kind of tagging in is happening with the expectation that like you're going to do something about this, you're going to lead this, like that's kind of messed up. But when it is coming from a framework of, I'm recognizing your leadership, I learn a lot from you, the way in which you are analyzing this problem and how it affects not just us, but everybody, like that's important. and like, and I see that, and I see why we all have to, fight, you know, side by side. And so it's like I was able to kind of talk, and Nancy also helped with like helping me talk myself into being less cranky. But sometimes I gotta let myself be mad. And it's like, and then it also ties into how when we are outraged at the state of the world, it's like that is not, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's like we are mad because we care. We are mad because we've got love and solidarity for other people, and that we are seeing things happen too. And that, what is important is like helping other people understand that like we all have to be in this together. We can't leave anybody behind. And like, just because Harriet Tubman was like, look, if you're not gonna like get with the program, like I will leave you back here. It's like sometimes we got to give each other that tough love, but we still also have to give one another grace and say like, hey, like I feel, what's going on for you. It's like I might not understand it in like, like Amy was saying, like, because sexism might not affect me in the same way it's affecting you. I'm not going to play like I know exactly what you're feeling, but I care about you. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to fight for the things that are like interfering with your life. And this is a stand that we all need to take, and we don't have time to be fighting amongst ourselves, or like feeling like we need to be babied at all parts in our work together. It's like sometimes we're going to get our feelings hurt, but the beautiful thing about comrades is that we understand that one another are like here for the right reasons, and that we are not just like working together to look good or to get something for ourselves. Like we are working together because we want liberation for one another. And so I just want to leave you with that. Like we ain't leaving each other behind, but we are also doing our due diligence to learn what we got to know to show up for one another.
Another round of applause for Christina. If you look at the screen really quick, on our New Valencia Hall website, there's a photo of us. That's the branch. Christina's holding the
the Nelly sign.
Yeah, the trashing the Nazi swastika in there. Yeah, anyways, that was 2017. So we had been fighting the right wingers that were coming in, the far right wingers coming into town 2017. So we know something about fighting the fascists, and we'll give them hell always. Okay, some announcements before we get into the delicious food. I want to invite folks, of course, it's $8 to $15 donation. Southern Lunch Delicious. Thank you everyone for the fun pitch. We raised $514.15. Oh my God. I'll round off that 50 cents and make it 515 there. Let's hear from Amy on the literature announcement, por favor.
Quick but concise and informative. Just wanted to, if today's discussion has in fact sparked your interest in reading more, especially in this case from the perspective that Christina represented today, which is an African-American, Chinese, feminist, anti-racist, revolutionary. She's representing the program of the Freedom Socialist Party, which is multiracial and multi-gender, multi-generational. So I just have a couple selections related to a lot of things that came up today. We have a pamphlet called Which Way Forward for the Black Lives Matter Movement as was discussed, our slashing the SF cops stash and cash and their ash and whatever, it came out of the uprisings, the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think the takeaway maybe with this one is, historically African Americans have been in the leadership of every movement that has taken hold here, and it's been really toward an anti-capitalist, it's been toward a revolutionary kind of a perspective. It's gotten to the root of what is the problem. And so this is a look at we don't necessarily need nonprofits to be doing their thing. We don't necessarily need individual Black businesses. That's not going to lift every African American person. But looking at a Black Lives Matter movement that really attacks the cops and attacks the system that the cops represent is one of the critiques in there. So I wanted to share that. Christina mentioned reparations. A revolutionary call for Black reparations is a really good read as well. The Freedom Socialist Party had intense ongoing discussions about what could and should reparations look like. I think you mentioned it's not just a $20,000 check. Let's get systemic. Let's bring housing. Let's bring healthcare. Let's get Black-centric education. Let's get jobs and so on and so forth, which incidentally will lift all boats, as you made the point. But yeah, in the name of what capitalism has done at the expense of African American people. Last book, just quickly, I know the concept of revolutionary integration was mentioned by a couple of people, and that's a theory that we subscribe to in the Freedom Socialist Party, which in a very small nutshell is to say that African Americans in this country have always fought back from the first fight against slavery, and that working class Black people have in fact done much of what was talked about here today, have inspired other movements, have made the gains that we're all benefiting from and that are threatening to be taken away, but that there's not a push, in the most progressive and revolutionary times, there's a push to be integrated and to fully participate in society as Black people, not to be assimilated or not to separate off, but the integration part of it, again, it's just that same theme of connecting all the issues so that it's a way that people of all colors can fight against racism, but also it's a recognition of the leading role that African Americans have played, whether against fascism or for any other movement. And then the last thing is just to please check out the Freedom Socialist newspaper, news from around the world, all from a revolutionary, feminist, anti-racist perspective. It's $10 for a year, and we appreciate that kind of support because it helps us keep printing. And if you just want to check out one issue, you can check out one for $1. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thanks, Amy.